Welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. We're deep into school now, right?
Yes.
Finally, the transition has occurred.
It has. And honestly, I was thinking about this week. It's everybody now. I think pretty much everybody has gone back to school. There might be the outlier, the private school that isn't starting for a couple of more weeks, but I think the vast majority of us are back at school.
So we're all dealing with the back to school shock.
Yes. And trying to find the rhythm of how do we do this. I have found myself the last couple of days thinking back to when school was getting out and you were dreading it. And I was like, bring it on. I can't wait for there to be no school. I can't. And you were like, why? And I said, oh, because we get to make our own schedule and whatever. And then, of course, I was thrilled that school was starting up again. But, man, it's a grind.
It is a grind.
Even just the lunch thing.
I know, having lunches ready every day.
I have to, because so many of us pack lunches. I have to say that tomorrow on the show, we're having Kelly Lester on the show, and she is the mom inventor of the easy lunch boxes.
Okay.
Have you seen these?
No.
They're now available in Target. For years, you could only get them online, and now they're selling them in Target. And really, for those of us who are doing the GFCF thing, I just have to say, and she's a mom who packed lunches, so it's just very simple and it's very inexpensive and it's all the right, that's no chemicals kind of thing. You'll love it. It just makes it so much easier. Everybody I know that's ever done it says, oh my gosh, it like
it's
changes.
A certain design of a lunchbox?
Yeah, I mean, she has these, and you can buy things separately, but she has it all so that you can just get it for like $8. You get the soft-sided lunchbox that doesn't have any of the bad chemicals, and then she sells these system plasticware stuff that's all safe, but it's really dishwasher safe, so it doesn't crack after being in the dishwasher. And it has the compartments so that you just slap everything in, put the lid on, stick it in, and you're good to go. As opposed to, we have the wax paper bags, and then we have the Ziploc bags, and
I know.
And I'm Ziplocking this, and I'm Ziplocking that.
I try to do it the night before. Do you?
No. No, I dream about that in some alternative universe, and I dream about being able to afford to pay someone to pack it the night before.
I know, wouldn't that be nice?
But no. Can I tell you, and this is not what we intended to talk about, I've had such a hard time this year getting my son to eat something because he doesn't like a lot of things room temperature.
Yeah.
For years, that was all he wanted. He didn't want anything hot and he didn't want anything cold, and now he's like, we never eat food that's room temperature. Why would I want to suddenly at lunch? Like he's never been a big sandwich person. So you know what?
Neither is Wyatt. Wyatt won't eat a sandwich at lunch.
Okay, so you know what we've been doing?
What?
Just to get him to be able to eat something, is he has a really long day. We've started on Sunday night, we go and get a gluten-free pizza. And we divide it up so that he gets 2 pieces of cold pizza in his lunch every day, because that's the only thing he'll eat right now.
Okay. Wyatt uses a microwave at school, doesn't?
Jem doesn't have access to a microwave at school.
Well, it does.
That's amazing. That sounds like a hotel spa. What are you talking? I use a microwave.
I make his chicken, his rice, and his olives, and he heats it up every day.
Okay, now wait a second. He's having rice and chicken and olives? Okay.
Every day.
This does sound like a spa.
Well, that's what his lunch is.
And what's funny about this is that both of us, like my kid goes and he's got like 15 different kinds of vegetables and fruits and everything in his lunch. And you see, I'm eating green beans out of a can so often for lunch.
Right.
And your kid is going with chicken and rice and olives. And you are often like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to eat today.
Right.
It's not a measure of like how crazy.
Yes.
Why aren't we packing for us what they eat?
I don't know.
They're at spas having these spa lunches. And half the time Jem comes home and 9/10 of it is still because he was, and I don't want to complain, he's Mr. Social at lunch. We prayed for that.
That's good.
But the boy has to eat. Anyway, we got a big show today.
Okay, yes we do. We have several guests on. So first let's get to, there's some in the news stories which are scientific. So,
Yeah.
what is a new genetic risk factor for developing autism spectrum disorder has been identified.
Okay, so first thing I want to say to people is that if you want to know the whole story, go to sciencedaily.com and you can read the whole story. But basically, in a nutshell, we've been looking in the last few years, the scientific community, at genetic mutations.
Yes.
Well, now they've taken and are looking for identifying and characterizing low-lying genetic mutations that may have been missed in previous research, and they are looking specifically at something called a post-zygotic mosaic mutation, or a PMM, and looking specifically at how that might play a role in autism. And they're finding that this is where you're going to start to go, that these particular types of mutations have to do with the way your cells react to protein. Now, we've heard this time and time again because our kids with autism, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have a hard time with certain proteins that can be found in gluten and casein and other things because their body takes them in those proteins. They're very similar to an opiate, and it has like an opiate effect for them
on the brain.
So this is an exciting new study looking at these PMMs to see, and they're seeing that there is a correlation with autism. And last week we had talked to people about the Simons Foundation, that you could do the swab and send your DNA, and they are using data from the Simons Foundation. So just another reason to participate in SPARK. It's called SPARK for autism, and it's being done by Simons Research, because I think they're going to find an answer in this protein thing. It makes too much sense. So check that out.
Then there's another story about how autism drugs may alter brain connectivity. It says that more than half of children diagnosed with autism who take psychotropic drugs, such as Prozac and Ritalin, the drugs are shown that it's possible that it enhances the degree of synchronization between the regions of the cortex.
Yes, and I wanted to include this story because this is interesting, and there are many kids that we have met that parents will get to the point where they'll try one of these drugs, and some have reported that their kids have been able to focus better. We're not trying to poo-poo medicine, but my concern is that this is a headline all over the news this week saying, look, these two drugs increase connectivity in the brain for kids with autism. But if you read the whole study, the fine print is that it does so minimally.
Yes.
Minimally. Now, when you have a kid on the spectrum, minimal is minimal, right? And you want to see improvement. But I want to caution everybody that honestly, make sure that you've exhausted all of your other resources and that you look specifically at what some of the side effects are to medicines. Don't just charge out and say, oh, well, I want my kid on Prozac or Ritalin because I heard it helps with connectivity. There are reasons why it's not great for every kid, and it helps with connectivity minimally. So just keep that in mind. Now, there was another story that was a big article that was in the news this week that you have a connection to, Miss Nancy.
I have a connection to?
Yes.
In what way?
Because the mom who wrote this is a mom who got a grant. Oh, that's
right. She got a grant from Act Today.
From Act Today that you helped her on her way.
Helped her on her way, and she wrote, this was in the New York Times, and it really, the article really touched me. And it was, as my son's limitations became clearer, I found it harder every year to write a vision statement for his IEP. Then he showed us how.
And everybody that was on Facebook, you probably saw this article. It showed the boy sitting on the rock, and it said, looking into the future of a child with autism. Yeah. And it was really, if you haven't read it yet, Cammie McGovern really poured out her heart about what it's like when your kid is in a place where, you know what I think about? The phrase that somebody uses, that they didn't win the autism lottery. Right. That that we were talking just a few minutes ago with Evelyn Kung about kids who get to the point where they lose their diagnosis. Right. That they're always going to be somebody whose brain works a little bit differently, but it's not in any way disabling them. It's not holding them back. They don't have any huge challenges. They don't need any huge support. And that's not all the kids.
Of course not. It's
by any stretch of the imagination.
Right, no.
And I thought what Cammie wrote was very touching, and you were very touched by it.
I was, because I felt I related to it.
Yeah.
Like every year when he was younger, she had grander expectations, and then after a while, she said that what she wrote for his vision statement reflected that rock bottom expectations. We hope that Ethan can remain within this program for the year. Then he surprised them. And at the next IEP, he wrote his own vision statement that were things that he was doing that he really just enjoyed.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, she said, it left her in tears. She said, I wish I could tell other parents at the start of their journey what has taken me 2 decades to learn. First, that your child may continue to grow and change, and even at the age of 21, may surprise you by doing things you never thought possible. Second, that in the end, success won't be measured by academic performance or job placement. It'll have more to do with accumulating small pleasures and filling your life with those. I don't know why it never occurred to me. Your future should look like the best parts of your present.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before on the show, ad infinitum, that there comes a moment when you get to acceptance.
Yeah.
And that is when you see your child fully for who they are.
Right.
And it's like a ball that drops and everything's okay. And it doesn't mean that anything's over.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you've accepted that there's not going to be any more progress, because that's not the case.
No.
But you get to the point. I always love when people say acceptance is not the same as contentment.
Right.
Right? But you get to acceptance. And I thought she detailed the moment of acceptance for her in a beautiful, beautiful way.
She very much did.
Okay, so we've got great guests.
Yes,
we're running a little late. My fault.
We have a coach that works with kids on the spectrum. We're going to find out what he's learned from that experience and what he can share with others.
Yes.
And then we have some musicians here.
I believe they're first, are they not? Richie Gallo and Carrie Fenster?
Yes, Richie Gallo and Carrie Fenster are going to come and talk about songs about us and how that was born, which helps deal with social skills in music.
Yeah, if you think about how amazing it is, how we all have learned so much from music and jingles and things like that. The idea of taking songs and making them so that our kids can listen to them and learn things about social stuff. I think it's brilliant.
Right.
Now, I will say this, that because of some of our technical difficulties today, I'm going to step out for that interview so that there's room and mic and everybody can hear. But I'll be watching lovingly from the booth.
Great.
And then I'll be back when we are interviewing the gentleman who does the fitness.
Right. Okay, sounds good.
So we're going to come back with Carrie Fenster and Richie Gallo. Stick with us.
Nobody ever asks a kid with autism, what is it you'd really like to do? At this school, we ask the kids, what is your goal? What is your dream? Exceptional Minds is a vocational training program for young adults on the autism spectrum who want to have careers in computer animation and visual effects. I think young people with autism are totally underestimated.
When you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. They all have different talents, different skills, and what surprised me is that there really are no limits. That if these guys believe that they can do something, they really can.
It's estimated that 90 to 95% of young adults with autism are unemployed or underemployed.
A lot of young adults still live at home. A lot of them suffer from depression and are very isolated from the rest of the world, and the opportunities for them are very limited.
We want to develop careers for our young adults. Our full-time program runs 3 years, at the end of which we have job placement and job coaching. We have a work readiness program. We also have our own in-house studio so that when our students graduate, they can do on-the-job training and work on real projects.
We outsourced about 30, 40 shots to the team here. They did fantastic work that we can put into a movie and be proud of it. It's great. I mean, we want to do it again.
The studio is their first step into the professional world, the first step in their new careers as digital artists.
The whole purpose is to get the students out into the real world.
We all have the same dreams. We want significance, dignity, and purpose with our lives. We have an opportunity to give those 3 words to every single student at this school who will actually be able to go out and participate in the dream.
This is my first full-time, full-paying job. I primarily work in After Effects. I learned After Effects at Exceptional Minds. It seemed like a good place for me to fit in because I was interested in animation.
Right from the first day that Nicky set foot in our company, he was producing work for us. We saw what level of professionalism is being instilled in them from the very beginning.
This was the first opportunity where Nicky could combine something he loved to do with something he was really, really good at that could eventually lead to employment.
When we first met Kevin, he was working at a supermarket bagging groceries, and they said he would never amount to anything else.
I work at Stargate Studios, and I'm a junior compositor. I mainly do like rotoscoping right now, and I'm still learning.
I think that you find great talent in the most amazing places. The students at Exceptional Minds have had a fair amount of training to get them ready for the visual effects environment.
If it wasn't for Exceptional Minds, I might still be at the supermarket, and I might be living at my parents' house.
Everything's changed. Nicky has purpose.
It feels like I'm a member of society now.
He's capable of making it on his own.
Once you get inside, you see what's really happening there, you immediately want to be a part of it.
It's the dream factory, you know, the movie business, and if you can connect people with their dreams, then the magic happens.
At Exceptional Minds, we like to say that we are changing lives one frame at a time.
What is autism? What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to, just,
Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
autism,
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love.
The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
This is Logan Shepherd. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepherd is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepherd now.
All I really want to say is, like, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream, like, that one day, like, I can just, like, inspire people and never give up. Because, like, that's what I want to do in life. Because if I can succeed, they can succeed. And I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the CARD method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
And welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And now I am joined in the studio by Richie Gallo. Hello, Richie.
Good morning.
And Carrie Finster.
Hi.
And these two gentlemen have quite a background in music, and that background led them to come together to create some very interesting music for our special community. So, Richie, you've got a huge background in the music business. Tell us a little bit just about that.
About 40 years. I started as a sales guy, worked my way up through a couple of companies, A&M Records, which is based here in Los Angeles, although I was working on the East Coast. And then when they got bought out, Universal, I acquired them. I was fortunate enough to still have a job, so I worked for Universal for 7 years. I ran a small label called New Door Records for about 18 months. It was a label devoted to artists that were older, that didn't have had catalogs at Universal, but really weren't in the forefront of music. You know, they were sort of more heritage artists. Right. We won 2 Grammys, though, in 18 months for a Peter Frampton album called Fingerprints and Temptations, who I think everybody might know. And then they closed the label down, and then I went to go work at Rhino for another 6 years. So when you add it all up, it's a couple of years and a few presidents.
So you're a pro in the music business. And Carrie, tell us how your musical story began.
I mean, if you want to go all the way to the origins, it would start with being like at home with my mom, who was a professional singer.
Oh, okay.
And I used to just like sit next to her at the piano and just tinker and just play around. I just always had a penchant for music. I always knew that I loved it. I always knew I wanted to play it. I started taking instruments in school, band instruments though, nothing cool, but like, you know, trombone and things like cello, which actually I think cello is pretty cool. But and then around 10, 11, I started taking like privately electric bass and electric guitar lessons, and then I was just done. I just knew that that's the instrument I wanted to stay with because they lend itself so much to you know, songwriting. And I just played music forever, and then I formed a band with my sister and my best friend back in New York, where I'm from. We were called Nep-Tep, and we moved to LA in 2002, and we did like the rock band around LA thing for a while. It was fun. It was really fun, and then I started working, I started teaching guitar lessons, then some of my students were in the special needs community, and I found myself just drawn to that and just enjoying it. And then I got hired at the Help Group in Los Angeles.
The Help Group, which everybody's familiar with, the big autism school here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, very renowned school. People like move here like when they get into that school. It's like the Harvard of like special needs institutions. And yeah, I was working there for a few years, and I just found myself in the classroom, teaching social skills, because that's, kind of hand in hand with autism. And there were just certain, phrases and things that were said in the classroom all the time that became like mantras, just certain like lessons, and that became sort of the idea for the songs that ended up on the record.
Okay, so tell us about the record, when Songs About Us, how that was born and what happened there.
Sure. Well, yeah, like I said, I've been a musician for like my whole life, and I've always loved writing songs. And it's fun to get inspiration from different places. You can like typically it's like breakups, or like love songs are huge, or songs about political songs. There's like certain, I think, like archetypal like categories that are like where inspiration comes from for songwriting, although it really can come from anywhere. And often it's just the people in your life and the things you're doing. And yeah, like I was saying, I was in this classroom with this great group of kids, a really good teacher, and like every day we were talking about certain themes that were just so recurring and so useful, and not just in the special needs community. Like we all employ social skills and need to be mindful of that. So we'd always be talking about things like having quiet hands if you're nervous, you don't want to like get hurt, or having personal space when you talk to people. These were said constantly. Like you can't overstate how often these things come up in that environment. Having good hygiene, brushing your teeth, stuff like that. So it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. I was like, these are such great song concepts, and that was both creatively for myself. I just was like, oh my God, I need to like get this out. Like I felt it in me. I needed to get it out creatively, but also I thought there might be a function to it as well, to bring these as a tool, like a learning tool. So I just went home and I started writing these songs, and I started playing them in the class to sort of see, okay, is it just in my head that these are fun, or like can I actually bring them to like the population I work with? And they were completely useful in the classroom. Like the kids were like loving the songs, and the teacher would even be like, oh, we're going to start talking about like health and like hygiene. Can you do your hygiene song? And I was like, okay, there's something to this that's not just like selfish as a songwriter, but it's like useful from a teaching standpoint. And yeah, and then I went down to Long Beach to the studio. A friend of mine had a studio, and I made like a demo. Just like a 3-song demo, real brief, and then it got into this guy's hands.
Richie, you found what appealed to you about the songs?
Well, as a musician and as somebody in the business, my brother-in-law, who's an entertainment attorney, hooked me up. I went to go see Kerry. He did one of these performances for this classroom, and it was 30 kids, and it was amazing. It was just amazing to watch how much music meant to them as well. And it was sort of a lightning bolt for me too. It was kind of like, wow, I've missed this maybe my whole life in the music business, about how music can affect everybody in some fashion. And he played some of the songs he was referring to, Hygiene, Personal Space. He did some covers, and he did Twist and Shout and Keep on Dancing. And I just remember being, I introduced myself afterwards, and I remember just riding home and thinking to myself, I should do a little research and just find out, like, is this something that might be worthwhile, something that would be really interesting, sort of something I could maybe do to give back, for all my years in music, where, I could get back into business in some way and help carry along with the idea. So that's how
Songs About Us was born.
That was it.
Essentially, yeah. It was us when we got together. It sort of was like the beginning of Music School Records, which is like the label that we put together to make it, and the album and everything kind of came together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're going to take just a very quick break because you're going to do a little number from that.
I'd love to.
All right. Sounds good. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Never to poke, never to scratch, never to hit, never to snatch, never to poke, never to scratch, never to hit, never to snatch. You might hit people or get hurt if your hands and body go berserk. So take a deep breath, count to 5. It feels great to be alive. Please use quiet hands. Please use quiet hands. Please use quiet
So that was great. We got to see the kids interacting with you on that. And you brought your guitar, so we're going to ask you to do one. What's this song called?
This is Personal Space.
All right, so if you could just do just a little bit of personal space, and we're going to tell people how they can get a hold of this.
Sure.
Fantastic. All right, the song's called Personal Space,
Okay.
and it goes a little something like this. Personal space, so much ever-loving personal space. Personal space, I'd sure love some personal space. Arm's length turnaround, that's how I'll be safe. If people are getting too close and you feel boxed in, take a little step away from them and now we'll start again. Personal space, so much ever-loving personal space. Personal space, I would love some personal space. Arm's length turnaround, that's how I'll be safe. I said arm's length turnaround, don't worry, I'll be safe.
Very good.
Thank
So
you.
what better way for kids to learn these lessons than to hear songs that they can move to and dance to, and as you say, it's a constant repetition anyway to learn these things.
Absolutely,
and music lends itself to that.
That's right.
So tell us how people can get a hold of songs about us.
Well, the best way is to go to the website.
Yep.
It's www.musicschool.com. On the website, there's videos, there's stories about Kerry, stories about how we got together, and a little bit more in depth. And there's an order your CD, and it's through Amazon.com, iTunes, Spotify, almost every place you can get. And we've actually made a digital deluxe edition, which has those songs and then all the 5 songs that Kerry wrote instrumental. So you can do a little karaoke too while you're at it.
Great. So Songs About Us, we encourage you to go and check it out. Great way for your kids to learn some lessons without having to beat them over the head with it, but to have them sing along and learn something in a really delightful fashion.
Yes.
Okay, well, so nice having you here today.
Thank you so
Regina
much.
Carey.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
And
Thank you
good
very
luck
much.
with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Hi, I'm Kara Kaczynski, the Pocket Occupational Therapist, and we're here in Dallas, Texas at the Future Horizons Autism Super Conference. So the book is the Special Needs School Survival Guide, and it's everything you wanted to know about school. It is, okay, so it starts out with just different diagnoses that you might see, and then I explain them in clear terms, no technical jargon, and then each little diagnosis area has about, 50 to 100 activities that you can do at home or at school or cheaply and effectively. So it's just full of information that you can use right now. And the cool thing about it is at the end of every chapter are resources that you can use and access in the internet from a computer. And it's not just for kids with any diagnoses either. It's for kids that are just having trouble with handwriting or with dressing in school or transitions too. Well, both of my kids are on the autism spectrum, so it's important to me that when I learn something for other people, as I research it for occupational therapy, I want to try it at home. So then I take what works and I put it in a book, and what doesn't work, it's thrown out the window. And the other thing is I've just started to research for webinars, because our kids, if our kids are aging, so they start out these cute little babies with autism, and now they're getting to be teenagers and young adults, and we need help with modifying the environment for them, transition planning, and especially for IEP goal writing, for functional things that they can work on, not just handwriting, but then going beyond into the transition to young adulthood. Yeah, the misnomer at this point in the school systems is that we just do handwriting. So we are actually not handwriting teachers. We can modify or help rectify a grip that's inefficient. So if a child doesn't have that nice, pretty little tripod grasp, we can help to get that. However, when the kid's in 2nd or 3rd grade, then we look at efficiency. So if the grasp is efficient, if it's a quadrupod grasp, or if it's some kind of funky grasp, and the child can write efficiently, then we leave it alone. But if not, then we go to electronic accommodations. So OTs then can look at keyboarding and what kinds of keyboards would fit the student best. Also sensory processing, as the kids get older, it looks different. So we can look at sensory processing as it relates to function in the school. And then we also can look at behavior and transition planning. Other things we can do is work on seating. So if the child's having trouble sitting still in the classroom, we can modify that too. So not just handwriting, not just sensory, but we look at behavior, transitions, so anything that affects that student's school day. Right, so that's a really good question, because sensory processing disorder did not make it into the last DSM, which is the way that medical professionals classify disorders. So it did make it into the classification under autism, but sensory processing disorder is very confusing, and a lot of therapists treat it differently. So the general overview is that sensory processing is either a heightened response to stimuli in the environment or a too low, which is hypo, response. So if the student perceives every noise around them is equally as important, or every feeling, so I'm sitting here, I can feel the chair, my sweater, the noise around me, then it's hard to concentrate and focus in the classroom on what you're supposed to be paying attention to. So we would use something, maybe a suggestion could be a weighted lap pad or some kind of fidget tool for the student to fidget with, or we can even look at special positioning in the classroom, so preferred seating. Then, with sensory, transitions can be hard because any unexpected bump in the classroom or in line can set the child off into a fight or flight, which is when they really have a tantrum and freak out. So when they're in a fight or flight mode, they may fly off the handle for no apparent reason, maybe just being bumped by another student. So it's our job to be detectives and to figure out why the student is having that meltdown. So my CDs were created for my own kids my son in kindergarten didn't like the fire drills. So he was afraid to even step foot into the classroom because the fire alarm may sound. Of course, the school's not going to say, oh, let's just set off the fire alarm for your son, Bob. So we thought, where can we get a fire alarm? So we went into a recording studio and picked a whole plethora of sounds that you couldn't control, fireworks, thunder, sirens, and we put them on a CD, and I wrote nursery rhymes, changing the words to blender, blender, it's okay, or different little, Mary had a little lamb is, something to do with thunder. So they're kind of fun, and that way the student can control the volume of the sound. It's not a listening therapy, there's no headphones involved. It's just a fun way to control sounds that you normally couldn't control. So they're for sale at my website, thepocketot.com.
Welcome back. We're back.
And we're here. We're back. We're just chatting.
I was like, I just saw us. We're here.
And we're chatting with David Igliori, who is the head of Fitness for Autism.
Yep.
And tell us how you got involved in working with kids on the spectrum, David.
I have been a trainer for probably 15 years, and I had a friend who has a son who's now 23, and I worked with him when he was about 9, and she had recommended that you should really work with kids with autism, and I pushed it off for a number of years and said I didn't want to do it. And then about 6 years ago, I had a list of a few different businesses I wanted to start. And I was kind of pointed in the direction to start Fitness for Autism. And it was probably the best decision I made. Very good.
Did you find you had a special gift working with these kids? Or?
Yeah, and it's funny because my friend had said it for years, and I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And so, I tell the parents when they come in that I'm not a therapist. I don't come from a therapy background. I'm really a trainer. So when they bring the kids into me, if they're doing therapy, that's great. I don't do anything that has anything to do with therapy. I truly train the kids. We do weight training. We do big, huge battle ropes. And I just set it up. It's set up like a gym. So they get used to coming into an atmosphere. We have little cards that they can punch when they come in and make it feel like a gym for them. So they have a routine that they come in. And it's not adaptive PE. I mean, they come in and I just train them. They're blessed.
Right.
What do you think, though? I mean, it's Fitness for Autism. Is there some accommodation that you make or not?
You know what? I adjust on the fly, I guess.
Okay.
Because I've been known to break the rules, what I call breaking the rules. Like sometimes my music might be a little too loud, or I do a lot of shoulder. Hey, how you doing? No. But they're used to Coach David does that. I'm very animated, so I just treat them. You know, it's really about like eye contact. You look at them and I can kind of feel them. So it's really just I just kind of go with the flow. If I have a client that's and I'm getting some younger ones now, like 6 years old. And you know, when they're going off the walls, I used to follow them, and now I sit back. You know, I'll talk to them a couple times. Now I sit back and just let them come back to me because it's time to kind of regroup. I've learned that they just need to settle in, and it's really a trust thing. So after they come in a few times, they start trusting me a little more, and it becomes a little more smoother. But I always say it takes a few sessions to let me see what your child does, so I can kind of adjust. So I come from no therapy, just really. Fitness, and then I've really grown to, it feeds my soul. I have to admit that.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to know, for the kids who come in who've never done this before, and maybe the parents are thinking, and they won't do it, what is it that the kids get out of it? What do you see them, because obviously they're doing it for you.
Yes.
What's their paycheck that they're getting for it?
You know what, and here's an example. I have some clients that come in and maybe they're having a bad day. You know, mom will give me a look like, ugh. He's really having a bad day. See, we come in, I always thank my clients for coming in. We do a little warm up, like, hey, thanks for coming in. How was your day? Whether they're nonverbal or not, we just continue with the conversation. And but when they leave, and again, I always thank them when they leave. They're always smiling, so they have a different attitude from sometimes when they come in to when they leave. So it's a feel good, you know. So, and you know, they say when you work out, you get the endorphin rush. They do also. And I also noticed that when I put heavier weights on, like I have like this push and pull sled that we use, they like that. They smile and it's great input for them.
Yeah.
So really I just...
So the actual physical activity feels good for them.
Yes.
You say you're not doing therapy, but later on I'm going to tell you all the reasons why what you're doing is exactly good therapy.
Well, good.
Because all that, there's a list for OTs of 7 things that are good, and we call it in therapy heavy work, that is good for kids to use their heavy muscles because it helps them to connect with their body and their brain, and then cognitively things start to come together.
And that's true with everybody. I mean, we do, perfect example, I do what we call farmer's walks or heavy carries. Especially if I have a child that's a little bit, I just go, here, take these. And I put them in their hand and I go, okay, now we're going to walk up and down the gym 3 or 4 times. And it grounds them.
Yes.
So absolutely, I do a lot of, you know, kind of old school lifting with some of these guys. You know, I have some really cool heavy medicine balls, real small but compact, and I have them pick it up from the ground. And I'm very good on, you know, I do work for them, but you have to kind of give a little bit with some, so I make sure the weight isn't too heavy that'll hurt their back. But I teach them the proper ways to do it. But just to pick the ball up and lift it, put it down, and so I make them carry it across the room. I do a lot of overhead carries, stuff like that for the core, and they smile. And you can see, I can tell when I've got them because they feel the input. Same with the weights. You know, if I'm doing like a bench press with them, and they get done with the heavier weight, they sit up there smiling. I hit them, so it was not literally. But, but I can see in their eyes that it's worked well. So I do a lot of old school. We do a lot of medicine ball work. Some of my clients, we do the boxing.
Yeah.
I'm big on just using the bag, so they learn, you know, not to hit other people, because some have, you know, they tend to lash out sometimes. But the bag is just for that. You put the gloves on, and this is what you do, and it feels good. You know, you get them in a rhythm. Some clients or parents don't want that.
Seeing some kids right now.
Yes, and they have a good time hitting them, and they do a great job.
Does you find it works very well in helping kids get their aggression out?
Yes, because I teach, it's a bag. It's not a person. I work with typical, and we do striking drills and MMA fighting. And you know, I have a dummy that's actually hanging up in my gym, which is for technical striking. I don't use that with any of my autism because I don't want them to relate that to, you know, cold cocking somebody. So it's really about fitness, even hitting the bag. You know, I don't give them the, oh, you know, you're not gonna, you know, I don't give them that scenario. It's just, okay, we're gonna do 100 punches, so they're on the bag and they're just, you know, pop, 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 pop.
And where is your gym?
Located in Newbury Park.
Newbury Park, California.
Yep.
And And if people are interested in finding you, how do they find you?
The best way to find me is fitnessforautism.com. You can text or call me. Text is probably best because I get back to you.
Okay.
You need that number too, I assume.
Yes, go ahead.
805-827-8278.
Say it again.
805-827-8278.
And is there any kind of I'm sure now you're going to get some people who are going to say, well, that's great, you're in Newbury Park, but I don't live in Newbury Park. Are you at all looking to maybe franchise, or is there a book coming out to explain to people the difference that you're making?
I am looking to do possibly a mobile thing, like on the weekends, because I'm pretty solid, pretty busy during the week at the location. So I'm thinking about on Saturdays, maybe Sundays, I'm not sure I need a day off.
Right.
Where I actually come out to a location, bring some of my toys per se, and if I can find a local gym, Woodland Hills, that might want to rent the space, I can come in 1 day a week, 2 days a week, I might do that. Currently I'm a one-man show, so I eventually plan on maybe bringing in an assistant to help with some of that.
And I think clearly we see there's something special about you, that you have a connection with people and you have a connection with these kids. I love that you kind of got dragged into it kicking and screaming, that it was not your intention.
I didn't want to say that, but yes, it kind of was that.
But a lot of us got dragged kicking and screaming into this community, and we all found our home too.
That's right.
We don't hold anything against you for saying, no, I don't think I want to do that.
Well, it was not intimidating, but I was like, I don't think I'll be able to do it because I don't have any background in therapy.
Right.
But it actually, if I can offer a little bit to the parents and the kids, I'm getting it back tenfold. So to me, it's like, you know what? Some of these kids do like the simplest thing. I tell a parent, and the client, you just made my day. I'm excited. They just look at me, I go, that's really.
But what you do have a background in is cause and effect. If I do this, this will happen. And if I do this over and over and over again, this great thing will happen.
Yes.
That's what you have advanced expertise in. And guess what? That's therapy. That's exactly that's exactly what they do with the kids in therapy. If this happens and you do this, here's the result.
Yes.
And they teach that to them over and over and over again to teach them skills that they want to increase. So you are doing therapy.
Okay, I'll take that.
Tell the parents that are listening why it's important for their kids to be involved in physical exercise.
Well, for anybody, physical activity is great. It regulates. It makes them feel better. Stressful. School is super stressful. So I'm busy after school. Kids come in and it's a way to release stress. Feel better about yourself, more confidence. With everybody, it's like that. I feel. I've had some parents tell me, my son his confidence level has gone through the roof, which I don't get from my clients. I don't hear it from them, but every once in a while a parent will tell me the confidence level. Because, you train some typicals, and they're very hard. I hate to use the word just typicals, but the diet part of the fitness. I have some clients, it's hard with the diet, especially when they have a limited, pepperoni pizza, chicken nuggets, French fries.
Right.
Yes, so it's really hard to get them fit, looking. Even though I have some kids that really are starting to look good, but the final cutting down in the abs, if you will, it's hard to do. It's all about nutrition.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part. But I'll tell you, I have some clients. They're in good shape. They're working hard.
That's
awesome. I think it's great.
We thank you so much for your work and the things that you're doing. Once again, how can people get a hold? If they want to bring their child to Newbury Park to work with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me is the phone, 805-827-8278.
Okay.
You can jump on the website at fitnessforautism.com.
Okay. And I think there needs to be a book or a manual or a franchise or something, please.
Yeah, well, I take notes of all my clients and my workouts, so it's kind of like a sort of.
So, yes.
All right, well, David, thank you for joining us.